Hello and welcome to this week's hashtag Toe to Toe. I'm Andy Scott and I'm delighted to say that the Magic Man, Paulie Malignaggi, has joined us for pay-per-view week. Paulie, the fans have tweeted some questions in, so I'll get straight into it. Thomas Lyons has said, what's your take on Mayweather crossing over to the kickboxing world despite being a retired fighter? Is this making a mockery of his resume or just clever business?
I think it's a bit of clever business. I also don't think he's going over to kickboxing. They haven't disclosed the rules yet, and I would be very surprised if it's anything but boxing. But Mayweather's very clever, so having said that, I think he will keep the rules under the covers for now until the very end, when he'll probably announce that it's just a boxing fight.
Dan Pollard has tweeted in, out of all of the four kings, who is your favourite and why? We've got some great boxing questions this week.
Oh, man. I mean, I have different variations of favorites for different reasons. I love Ray Leonard because he fought them all, and he had a great personality, and to this day he's very approachable. I loved Hagler for his tenacity and his ability to be underrated, yet always stay hungry and to be the best, and he was the best. I love Duran because, he had a I don't care attitude. He didn't respect anybody. He was angry, and sometimes I felt like that in my life, and I love that about him. And he didn't really go with the flow, so to speak. He kind of went against the grain most of the time. And then I love Tommy Hearns just because the fact that he can make welterweight and box the way he could, and had such big punching power, and had some terrific wins as well. Woodford Benitez was one of my favorite fights, and Duran beat him pretty handily. and Leonard beat him pretty. Hearns beat him pretty handily at light middleweight.
Alan Druitt tweeted in, regarding Usyk Bellew this weekend, that's the reason we're here. If Bellew is victorious, can you see him fighting Stevenson to avenge his loss or retire?
If Bellew was victorious, I could see Stevenson chasing the Bellew fight. I could see Stevenson wanting to go up to cruiserweight and saying, hey, you know what, I have a win over you, and trying to basically bait Bellew into fighting him. And you know what, I know Bellew says this is his last fight, but if he wins the fight, it's kind of hard to walk away on this glorious note, even though it would be the most glorious of notes to walk away from. I think there's just too much temptation to keep fighting, and one of those temptations would be a rematch with Stevenson to kind of try to undo the loss that he has to him. It's a big if, though, because Usyk is just a terrific fighter.
Yeah, but when you add Tony Bellew's wife into that and she says no more, maybe it is no more. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe that's his
maybe
biggest
that's
opponent.
The toughest opponent yet.
Josh Murphy, it kind of crosses over to what we were just saying. Paulie, if you could have faced one fighter from any era, who would it have been and why?
It's hard to say, if I would say any of these guys, people would be like, oh, that guy would kill you. Well, you know what?
What's he talking about?
It probably would, right? But I don't know. I have different guys. I have a lot of respect for Aaron Pryor. I would have liked to face a guy like that. Tenacity, see if my boxing skill would have held up against him, my athletic ability. Or, a Chavez, Julio Cesar Chavez, who was kind of the consistent guy, always breaking guys down, but seemed to have a little trouble with speed. But then again, most of the time, he got the job done anyway, so I would have loved to see how my skills matched up against him. It would be interesting.
Yeah, great fight, that. Henry Walter, which fight do you consider your best performance? It's not an easy one, but which would you consider?
I think, my two title-winning performances I'm very fond of because, nobody had beaten Love Morendo the way I beat him to that point. Afterwards, maybe, yes, he got older, but Love Morendo was always a headache for anybody that fought him, and I was the first one to beat him hands down, and I beat him for a world title, no less, when he was world champion. And then, obviously, the Sinchenko fight is tough to not pick against because that changed my career, it kept my career alive, and then I don't think I would have become a commentator had I not won the Sinchenko fight because I would not have been in anybody's mind to say, let's try Paulie out for the commentating job, I think the reason my name being relevant at the moment I got the commentating job was the reason they even thought to give me a chance at Showtime in order to give me that, and then obviously that opened up all the other doors to be here and be everywhere else. So the Sinchenko fight is probably one I'm most fond of because of what it did for me, but it's hard to pick against your first world title,
Very good. Okay, let's finish on Steve Parsons, who tweeted in, if Tony Bellew is victorious on Saturday night, does he deserve to be classed as one of the best pound for pound due to the reputation that Usyk brings? That's always a difficult one because pound for pound rankings are a rabbit hole of arguments.
It's subjective. I think you definitely mention him in the pound for pound for sure. a lot of people seem to believe Tony's going to win Saturday. You know, I think it's a very tough fight. You know?
Is that surprised you? Now you've got here a lot of people
well,
actually...
you know, I think it's people are patriotic. I think people are, you know, for the home team, so to speak. Like Rocky says, right, in Rocky 5. But I would be very, very shocked if Tony wins the fight. And that's not to say that I'm, you know, people sometimes you predict a fight and people think that you're against one of the other guys. I totally don't have a dog in the race. You know, I actually know Tony. I don't know Usyk. So, you know, it's, you know, I would be very happy for Tony if he would be able to win this fight. But I think it's very, very difficult. And I think Tony will gain his respect either way with his performance Saturday night. I'm sure of that because he's a no-heart guy. But I find it very difficult to see him winning Saturday.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we'll catch up with Paulie a little bit more on the podcast, so make sure you tune into that later. But I've got a lot more love for a man that can quote Rocky in a genuine boxing conversation.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.